Welcome back to another installment of Free Money NFL Week 10 edition. Last week, quite frankly, that was the worst betting week we have ever had. We're going to put that one in the rearview mirror. We took a couple of L's, but you know what they say. Last week we took an L. This week we bounced back. On the fantasy side, actually not terrible, so we can build off some of that success. Let's get right into it and quit wasting time. Start. Derek Carr. Derek Carr should be pretty cheap this week. If you're doing daily fantasy, DraftKings is about $5,400. This year, he has had 15 points or more in all but one game this season. Now, he's been no world beater, but that's a pretty solid floor to start with. And this week, he has an intriguing matchup against the Broncos. Their defense has been a disaster against the pass. It's allowing more than 250 passing yards, the ninth most fantasy points to opposing quarterback, and they also had a little banged up in the secondary. A couple of their better defensive backs, their status is still up in the air for Sunday's game. And what's more than that, a total of 7 signal callers have scored at least 18 fantasy points against Denver. 4 have also put up at least 20, including Matt Ryan with 22.4 last week. Start Aaron Jones. This one's going to be a little bit more on the expensive side, but he's coming off an injury, and he is facing a bad defense. Jones had 20 touches in his return from injury last week, and he's in position to repeat again. The Jaguars' defense has given up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs this season, and they're also allowing 4.5 yards per carry and 11 rushing touchdowns to date. This game could get out of hand early, quite frankly. I think it's going to be a blowout. The Packers are going to run away with this one. So Rodgers will be turning around and handing it off to Jones a good amount late in the game. So he should get his fair share of rushing yards. Another running back to start this week. Start Mike Davis. His stock has suddenly shot right back up because Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be out with a shoulder injury. And during Davis's time as a top back, he put up at least 15 and a half fantasy points 4 times, including against Tampa Bay, and that's who they play this week. He's had 20 plus touches almost every game, so that's a virtual guarantee that he's going to get at least 20 touches. The Carolina offense, they like to throw to the running backs regardless of who it is, so Davis is a great play this week. Start Travis Fulgham against the Giants. He's going to cost you about $6,400 for daily fantasy. He's been one of the top ads off the waiver wire this season, and there's good reason. He's averaging 20.7 fantasy points since week 5. That is pretty darn good. In that time, he leads all Eagles wideouts in snaps, routes, targets, and catches. That includes a Week 7 game against this week's opponents, the Giants, when Fulgham had 11 targets and 73 yards. Now, even though Alshon Jeffrey's coming back, I think the Eagles are going to try and ease him back, so Fulgham should be the number 1 man in Philadelphia, and New York has surrendered 9 touchdowns and the 9th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this season. Start Fulgham. That's a great matchup. Start Stephon Diggs. This is another guy. It's going to cost you a decent amount. It's about $7,500 total, but Diggs has reached 6 receptions at least in every appearance since week 3. The Cardinals have given up the 13th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Also, Diggs has been hot this year. He's had 4 games of 100 yards already this season. This game should be a shootout. Diggs should have ample opportunities to get the ball. It looks like he has a pretty good connection with Josh Allen. On to the betting side this week. Take the Eagles over the Giants. Eagles are favored by 3 points. This game is going to be a turnover fest, so you're going to be sweating through it. I'll be honest, it's going to be ugly. But for me, this comes down to who has a better QB. And I trust Carson Wentz in this one. He's getting Boston Scott and Alshon Jeffrey back. And the last time he faced the Giants, he threw for 375 total yards and 3 touchdowns. The Eagles are coming off a bye week. This is an important divisional game to try and clinch this division because the Giants are the second best team right there. So they take this one. They're in the driver's seat. They know that, so they should be prepared to sweep the season series and what is probably going to be an ugly game, but defense, slight edge, Carson Wentz, bigger edge on the offensive side. Take the Eagles. Take the Bucs over the Panthers. Now, I know I pick on the Panthers a lot this year, and I'll be honest, they're a well-coached, solid team, but don't confuse that with being a good football team just because they're competitive all the time. McCaffrey's hurt. Tom Brady's pissed. The Panthers came off an emotional loss to the Chiefs. They're likely going to come out flat. Meanwhile, the Bucs got humiliated in prime time, and they want to wash that taste out of their mouth. This is a perfect recipe for the Buccaneers. Last week, the Buccaneers, they were missing the best lineman in L.A. Marpet. He's the highest rated left guard in the NFL this season, according to Pro Football Focus. He practiced this week and should be back. The Panthers' defense is not that good. Meanwhile, the Bucs' front four should create enough pressure on Teddy Bridgewater, and their offense, their defense ranks 4th overall in yards per play. So, people don't like, they saw that game against, last week against the Saints, said it was ugly. A lot of the money is on the Panthers. This is a good value pick. I do not see Tom Brady losing 2 weeks in a row, especially after he played the worst game of his career. You know he's going to be coming out firing. Finally, we are taking our first dog in a while. Take the Bills over the Cardinals. Bills are getting 2.5 points. Cardinals are a hot commodity right now. They rank 1st in the NFL in yards per game and 6th in points. However, do not let their record fool you. They're a pretty good team. I will give it that. And I like Kyler Murray a lot. But let's look who they beat. They've beaten a really bad Washington team that doesn't even have a name. They beat a Jets team that may not win a game this year. They beat a dumpster fire in Dallas and a Seahawks team that is on track to have the worst pass defense in history. The defense has been solid this year, but the Seahawks and Dolphins prove they can be scored on. Meanwhile, the Bills, 5 of their 7 wins have come against teams with either with a winning record. This one's going to be a shootout, but Josh Allen got back on track last week. I think he's going to continue his success, and the Bills' defense is just good enough where they are going to come away with the victory here right before their bye week. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe to our channel or like or throw a comment below. And as always, enjoy your football Sunday.